$16,000? What the? Yeah, is it true that I can get healthcare coverage even if I'm not on active duty? Hey everybody, Mark Jancic here, and today we're going to be talking about healthcare after the military. Did you know that healthcare can cost hundreds of dollars for a single person and thousands of dollars per month for a family? I know, it's absolutely crazy. And if you're in the military and you're thinking about getting out soon, this is probably one of your primary concerns, and maybe you're even freaking out a little bit. Well, don't worry, my team and I have done the research and there is hope for everybody. So let's talk about it. I'm gonna tell you the 3 things you can do to get temporary or potentially even permanent healthcare after transitioning without paying any of these insane civilian prices I was just talking about earlier. These 3 things are Tricare Reserve Select, Tricare Assistant Management Program, and the Continued Healthcare Benefit Program, or CHCBP. Last program will blow your mind, so make sure you stay tuned. In fact, I actually called Tricare about it just because I couldn't believe it. All right, let's talk about Tricare Reserve Select. This is what me and my family uses, and it is phenomenal. This is meant for reservists and National Guard, and it's a premium-based healthcare plan. At the time of this recording, it is about $47 to be exact for an individual per month, and $239.69 for a family per month. Now, if you're dead set on getting out and never joining the reserves, like I said, there is an option for you, and it's called TAMP, or the Transition Assistance Management Program. This is where you get 180 days of Tricare benefits after your transition date. There's 2 primary ways that you qualify for this. One is if you were involuntarily discharged, but under honorable conditions. The second way is if you agree to join the reserves or select service, then you also qualify for this. It's basically like having kind of a temporary Tricare Prime in your back pocket for 6 months as you're trying to figure out what you actually want to do, whether it's, doing the reserves or completely getting out or all that kind of stuff. It's essentially like having Tricare Prime for an extended 6 months after your transition date, just to kind of cushion your landing, so to speak. Last but certainly not least, if you need healthcare after you transition, there's always the Continued Healthcare Benefit Program. Now, what the CHCBP is used for is to bridge the gap between your transition from the military to the civilian sector. And it allows for 18 to 36 months after your EAS. And basically, outside of any minor details and nuances, it's just kind of like having Tricare Select, which for me is insane. I don't know why nobody talked about this when I was transitioning, and I did my freaking homework, but I didn't realize that this was even an option. I was so appalled that I had to call Tricare when we were researching this, because I was like, why don't people talk about this? This is like soft landing, if you will, that just isn't talked about enough. At least where I was stationed, nobody ever talked about this. It seemed like the options were fairly limited, and it was really frustrating. So I'm glad to know that this is an option, and I'm going to be telling people about it that are thinking about transitioning, that know that maybe it'll take another year or 2 for them to find themselves or get on solid ground. This is a great way to do it. However, medical bills suck the worst. Now, I'm not even kidding. That's a real number right there. $16,370 was a bill I received for an emergency surgery my wife had to get done on her tear duct. Yes. Now, I didn't see this bill for a whole year, so I freaked out. And when I called Tricare, then I called the hospital. Turns out there was just an extra piece of documentation I needed to submit, and I was good to go. Tricare would cover it, but holy cow, it made me realize if I didn't have healthcare figured out after the military, I'd be in some deep hurt. Now, I decided to do both of those options basically combined. I knew that I wanted to be in the reserves for at least a while until I got my things figured out. I am doing my entrepreneurial journey full-time, real estate and business building, but I wanted to make sure, let's put it that way, that my landing was going to be soft on the transition out, that in case something crazy happened, that at least I had healthcare for my family. And so when I transitioned out 6 months after that, I did have TAMP. And so I didn't have to pay for Tricare. I basically had healthcare like nothing ever changed. But then 6 months afterwards, that's when the $230 whatever dollars started kicking in, and I had to pay that every single month, and I was in reserved or Tricare Reserve Select officially. Now, I can't tell you how well this has worked out for me. I mean, that $16,000 bill I was showing you guys earlier, that is completely going to be paid for. Thank goodness. Hey, so we were about to publish this video, then we realized, wait a second, we can't air this without actually talking about CHAMPVA either. So here's a bonus section talking about a whole other healthcare program, so listen up. All right, CHAMPVA stands for Civilian Health and Medical Program of the Department of Veteran Affairs. And this is just another program like Tricare, except for only certain military members and their families are eligible for it. And some might qualify for it even if Tricare isn't an option. So to be eligible, you need to meet one of these 4 requirements. So the first way to gain eligibility is by being either a spouse or a child of a veteran who is permanently and totally disabled through a service-connected disability. The second way is if you're a surviving spouse or child of a veteran who died from a VA-rated service-connected disability. And then the third is if you are a surviving spouse or child of a veteran that at the time of them passing away, they were actually permanently and totally disabled for a service-connected disability as well. Lastly, in some cases, if you're the surviving spouse or child of a veteran who died in the line of duty, not due to misconduct, you might also be eligible for CHAMPVA. Now, if you do find out that you are eligible, there's a wide variety of things that you can then access as far as medical care, which includes hospital visits, doctor visits, prescription medication, and even mental health services. You'll also be able to get coverage for certain medical supplies like oxygen tanks and wheelchairs. Now, I just wanted to mention, if you have a service-connected disability, that means that this is a disability that you gained while on active duty, and that basically it was either caused and now made worse as a result of that. Now, here's a few important things I do have to note about CHAMPVA, just so you're aware of its differences compared to maybe some other healthcare programs like Tricare. So, number one being it is limited in some of its coverage. For example, it will not cover dental care, eyeglasses, or hearing aids. The second thing is coordination of benefits. Basically, if you have a primary insurance, this can't substitute that. This will have to be a secondary insurance after that primary insurance. So it can take over potentially some of the costs that are remaining, but it can't be the primary. The third thing is there's some pre-authorizations that might be required for certain types of care as well. And lastly, especially if you're in rural areas, it might be a little bit more difficult to actually find providers that will accept CHAMPVA. But all in all, this is a fantastic benefit. I mean, if you are permanently and totally disabled and now you have this for you and your family, this is fantastic because it's free healthcare. Now, if you have any cool tips or tricks, what I would love for you to do is to share that in the comments below, because you know, we're all brothers and sisters in arms, and our families need our help, and we need to figure out how to transition when the time comes, because no matter how long you want to be in the military, it's going to be time to transition someday. You're going to have to take the uniform off, and knowing this stuff is so valuable. And if you watch this far, my name is Mark-Jan Sitch, and I'm the founder and CEO of Active Duty Passive Income, the largest military real estate investing education company and community. We're all about teaching military members how to invest in real estate and build businesses so they can transition out of the military when the time is right, way more comfortably, and build generational wealth and cash flow so that your lifestyle's better while you do it. So check us out at activedutypassiveincome.com. And if you wouldn't mind, give us a little donation in the form of a subscription, a like, or a share. And again, this is Mark-Jan Sitch. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. The Continued Healthcare Benefit Program. Blah, blah, blah. Continued Healthcare Benefit Program. That is a tongue twister. What is all that? Are those bills?
No, they're mail.
It's mail, but it's crappy mail.
Crappy mail.
Shh, don't say that.